My family sat around the Thanksgiving table laughing. I sat in the corner on a folding chair with a paper plate. 2 days later, I posted one story online. By morning, their perfect life began to crack. They begged me to stop. But I hadn't even started. You think you know what I did next. You don't. This is not a story about forgiveness. This is what happens when the invisible daughter decides to be seen and how far she will go. My name is Riley Morgan, and I am 22 years old. I know that sounds like an adult, and in the eyes of the law, I am. But in the eyes of my family, I have always been the invisible daughter. The one they forgot to pick up from soccer practice. The one whose birthday dinner got canceled because my older sister, Lauren, had a last-minute dance recital. The one who sat at the end of the Thanksgiving table every year, holding a plate that no one passed the mashed potatoes to. I am used to being overlooked, but I am not used to being erased. Let me start from the beginning. My mother, Patricia Morgan, is the kind of woman who believes that appearances are the only thing that matter. She has blonde hair that she gets touched up every 6 weeks, a kitchen that looks like a magazine spread, and a smile that freezes over if you say the wrong thing. My father, Richard Morgan, is a corporate lawyer who measures love in dollar signs. He paid for my sister's Ivy League education, my brother's startup money, and my community college tuition with a note that said, "This is the last time." I have 2 older siblings. Lauren is 26, married to a man named Brad who sells luxury cars, and she is the golden child. She has a way of walking into a room that makes everyone else feel like they are in her way. Then there is my brother, Ethan, who is 24. He is the clever one, the one who can talk his way out of anything. He started a tech company that loses money every year, but my father still calls him an entrepreneur. And then there is me. Riley, the youngest, the quiet one, the one who works as a waitress at a diner called Peggy's Place, saving every penny to finish my degree in creative writing. I live in a small apartment above a laundromat, and my biggest luxury is a potted plant named Fern that refuses to die. I love my family. I have spent my whole life trying to earn a seat at their table, but on Thanksgiving, I learned that they had already decided I did not belong there. The morning started normal. I woke up at 6 in my little apartment, and the first thing I saw was a text from my mother. It said, "Dinner at 4, don't be late, and wear something nice for once." I remember smiling. That might sound strange because her text was cold, but I was used to that. At least she remembered to invite me. Last year, she forgot, and I showed up to an empty house because they had all gone to a restaurant without me. So a text felt like progress. I spent the morning baking a pie. That is my thing. Every year, I bake an apple pie from scratch. I use my grandmother's recipe, the one written on a faded index card in her shaky handwriting. It takes me 3 hours, and I burn my fingers on the caramel at least once, but it is the one thing I bring that they actually eat. My mother buys desserts from a bakery, but she always puts my pie on the table. She never says thank you, but she puts it there. That pie, I would later learn, was the last kind thing I ever made for them. I got dressed in my nicest sweater, a cream-colored one that I bought from a thrift store for $6. I curled my hair. I put on lipstick. I wanted to look like I belonged. I wanted my mother to look at me and see a daughter she could brag about, even if just for one night. The drive to my parents' house takes 40 minutes. They live in a suburb called Oak Haven, where the houses are big and the lawns are green and the neighbors wave at you with the kind of friendliness that feels like a challenge. I parked my old Honda behind my father's Mercedes and Lauren's SUV. My brother's Tesla was already there too. I remember sitting in my car for a moment, holding the pie on my lap. The heat from the ceramic dish warmed my hands through the oven mitt. I looked at the house, all lit up with those warm yellow windows, and I thought, this year might be different. It was not different. It was worse. I walked up the front steps and rang the bell. No one answered. That was not unusual. My family has never been big on opening doors for me. So I used my old key, the one my mother never asked for back, and I let myself in. The house smelled like rosemary and butter. Music played softly from the living room. I could hear my mother laughing, that high-pitched laugh she uses at parties. I walked toward the kitchen, my heart feeling light for the first time in months. And then I saw them. The kitchen was full of people. My parents, my sister Lauren and her husband Brad, my brother Ethan and his girlfriend, a woman named Chloe who sells essential oils and once told me I would be happier if I released my toxicity. There were also people I did not recognize. A couple around my parents' age, dressed in expensive clothes, and a young man about my age, handsome in a boring way, with clean-shaven jaw and a navy blazer. They were all standing around the kitchen island, drinking wine and laughing. My mother was holding a platter of hors d'oeuvres. My father was pouring champagne. Lauren was showing off her engagement ring for the 100th time, and no one looked at me. I stood in the doorway for what felt like a full minute. The pie was getting heavy in my hands. Finally, I said, "Hi, I'm here." My mother turned. Her smile did not exactly fall, but it flickered like a light bulb getting ready to burn out. "Oh, Riley. We thought you weren't coming." "You texted me to come," I said. "Did I?" She waved her hand. "Well, you're here now. Put the pie on the counter." That was it. No hug, no introduction to the strangers. Just an order to put down the only thing they wanted from me. I put the pie on the counter. And then I stood there, holding my own hands as the party continued around me. Lauren did not look at me. Ethan gave me a nod that was more of a head twitch. Brad asked me if my car was still running, and when I said yes, he said, "Huh, impressive." The stranger in the navy blazer glanced at me once and then turned back to his conversation. I found a spot by the window and watched my family. They were telling stories I had never heard, about trips I had not been on, jokes I did not understand. At one point, my mother said, "Remember that time in Napa?" And everyone laughed, including the strangers. I had never been to Napa. Dinner was worse. The table was set for 10. I counted the chairs. There were 10, but there were also 10 name cards, written in my mother's elegant handwriting. I looked for mine, walking around the table, checking each little white card. Lauren, Brad, Ethan, Chloe, Patricia, Richard, Mr. and Mrs. Harrington, Jonathan Harrington, and then a 10th card that said, "Chef's Table." That was my seat. The chef's table was a small folding chair in the corner of the dining room, next to the server's cart. My mother had placed a paper plate and a plastic fork there, while everyone else had china and crystal. I sat in the folding chair. I did not say a word. I told myself it was fine. I told myself I was being dramatic. I told myself that at least they had saved me a spot. But then the food came out, and no one passed me anything. The turkey went around the table, from person to person, skipping me. The mashed potatoes, the gravy, the green bean casserole, all of it traveled in a circle that did not include the corner where I sat. I reached for the cranberry sauce once, and my mother said, "Let the guests go first, Riley." The guests were the Harringtons. They were also eating off china. So I sat there with my empty paper plate. I watched my family eat. They talked about investments, vacations, the new renovation on the kitchen. Lauren announced that she and Brad were trying for a baby. Everyone cheered. Ethan announced that his company had secured new funding. Everyone clapped. My father gave a toast to the family's bright future. No one looked at me. I looked at the apple pie I had made. It was sitting on the counter, untouched, because the bakery desserts were already on the table. That was when something inside me cracked. Not broke, cracked, like ice on a lake when you step on it. You hear it happen, and you know that if you stay still, you might be okay. But if you move, if you take one more step, everything falls through. I stayed still. I did not cry. I did not yell. I took a deep breath and I sat in my folding chair until everyone finished eating. Then I stood up, picked up my paper plate, and threw it in the trash. I grabbed my purse from the hook by the door. No one said goodbye. I drove home in silence. The 40 minutes felt like 4 hours. When I got back to my little apartment, I sat on my couch and stared at Fern. I waited for the tears to come. They did not. I thought, tomorrow is Friday. I have a shift at Peggy's at 6 in the morning. I need to sleep. So I slept. Friday came. I worked a double shift. I served coffee to tired truck drivers and pancakes to crying toddlers. I smiled. I collected my tips. I did not think about Thanksgiving. Friday night, I checked my phone. There were no messages from my family. That was normal. But there was a notification from my sister's Instagram story. I do not follow her, because following Lauren is like watching a commercial for someone else's life. But sometimes I get curious, and sometimes I click. I clicked. The story was a video. Lauren had posted it at 8 o'clock on Thursday night, right around the time I was driving home. In the video, the whole family was gathered around the dining table. But it was not the dining table I had seen. The table was decorated with new centerpieces, candles that spelled out "thankful," and a big silver platter that held an entire roasted turkey. And everyone was laughing. My mother was holding a glass of champagne. My father was carving the turkey. Lauren was kissing Brad's cheek. Ethan was making a funny face at the camera. Chloe was pretending to be surprised by something. Even the Harringtons were there, smiling. The caption said, "Thanksgiving with the Morgans, so grateful for this crazy, beautiful family." I watched the video 3 times, then I watched it again, and then I noticed something: the name cards. In the video, the table was set for 9, not 10. There was no chef's table in the corner. There was no folding chair. There was no sign that I had ever been there at all. They had set the table, filmed the video, and then, what? Taken down the 9th place setting, moved the chair, or had they never intended for me to stay? I texted my mother. I said, "Why was I not in the Thanksgiving video?" She replied 2 hours later, "It was just a quick shot, honey, don't overthink it." I texted Lauren. "Did you know I was sitting in a folding chair with a paper plate?" Lauren replied, "Mom said you wanted to sit there, something about your back." I texted Ethan. "Were you going to say hi to me at all?" Ethan replied, "You seemed busy with your pie." That was the moment I knew. Not suspected, knew they had not forgotten me, they had hidden me, on purpose. The folding chair, the paper plate, the name card that said chef's table, that was not an accident. That was a message. You are here, but you are not one of us. I did not sleep that night. I sat on my couch with Fern, and I thought about every Thanksgiving, every birthday, every Christmas, every family dinner where I had been an afterthought. I thought about the time my parents went to Hawaii for Lauren's engagement and told me there wasn't room in the budget for me. I thought about the time Ethan got a new car for his college graduation, and I got a $5 gift card to a gas station for mine. I thought about all the times I had smiled and said it's fine and meant it hurts. And then, around 3 in the morning, I got angry. Not the kind of anger that makes you cry. The kind that makes you calm. The kind that makes you sit up straight and open a notebook and start writing. I wrote down everything. Every slight. Every forgotten birthday. Every time they had made me feel small. I wrote for 3 hours, filling page after page. By the time the sun came up, I had a plan. Not a revenge plan, not yet, just a plan to understand. Saturday morning, 2 days after Thanksgiving, I woke up with a purpose. I called my mother. She answered on the 4th ring, which is her way of letting me know she is busy. "What is it, Riley? We're cleaning up from the holiday." "I need to come over," I said. "I forgot something." "What did you forget?" "My pie dish. It's ceramic." "It was my grandmother's." There was a pause, then, "Fine, come now, but don't stay long, we have lunch plans." I drove to Oak Haven. I parked in the same spot. The house looked different in the daytime. Less warm, more like a museum. I rang the bell, and this time my mother opened the door. She looked tired. Her hair was in a messy bun, and she was wearing sweatpants. I had never seen my mother in sweatpants. It threw me off for a second. "Your pie dish is in the pantry," she said. "Get it and go." I walked into the kitchen. The leftovers from Thursday were still out, covered in foil. I saw the bakery desserts half-eaten. I saw my pie, untouched, sitting on the counter. The caramel had hardened, the crust had gone soft. I picked up my pie dish, but I did not leave. "Mom," I said, "who were the Harringtons?" She was wiping down the counter. She did not look up. "Friends of your father's." "From work, and Jonathan Harrington?" "Their son. Why were they at our Thanksgiving?" My mother stopped wiping. She turned to look at me, and for the first time, I saw something in her eyes that looked like guilt. But it was gone fast, replaced by annoyance. "Your father and Mr. Harrington are discussing a business partnership. We were being hospitable." "And the folding chair, the paper plate?" she sighed. "Riley, you are so dramatic. We had 9 people and 10 seats. Someone had to sit at the cart. You were the last one to arrive. You texted me to come at 4. I was there at 4. Everyone else was already eating appetizers." "I texted you at 4, she said slowly, "to tell you dinner was at 4. That means you should have been here at 3:30. I stared at her. "That is not what your text said. Riley, I don't have time for this." She turned back to the counter. "Take your dish and go." I did not go. I walked down the hallway toward the living room. My father was in his study, on the phone. Lauren and Brad were in the backyard, playing with the neighbor's dog. Ethan and Chloe were upstairs, from the sound of it. I stood in the middle of the hallway and I looked at the family photos on the wall. There were dozens of them. Lauren's wedding, Ethan's college graduation, vacations in Aspen, Napa, the Bahamas, Christmas mornings with piles of presents. And in every single photo, I was either missing or standing on the edge, half out of frame. The only photo of me alone was my senior picture from high school. It was in a small frame on the bottom shelf of a bookcase, behind a potted plant. I took out my phone. I started taking pictures of everything. The photos on the wall, the pantry full of expensive food, the calendar on the fridge that had Lauren's doctor's appointments, Ethan's meetings, and my mother's spa days. There was nothing with my name on it, not a single note, not a single reminder. My father came out of his study. He saw me taking pictures and frowned. "What are you doing?" "Documenting," I said. "Documenting what?" "My childhood," he laughed. It was a short, sharp laugh. "Don't be childish, Riley. You had a fine childhood." "Did I?" I asked. "When I was 10, you forgot to pick me up from school. It got dark. A teacher had to drive me home. You didn't notice I was gone until the next morning." His face went still. "That was one time. When I was 12, I got the lead in the school play. I gave you tickets. You went to Lauren's volleyball tournament instead. You told me the play was probably boring anyway." "Lauren was getting a scholarship," he said. "Volleyball was important. When I was 15, I saved up money from babysitting to buy my own birthday cake. I put candles on it. I sang to myself in my room. No one came in." My father opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked at my mother, who had followed us into the hallway. She had her arms crossed. "Riley," my mother said, "if you are trying to make us feel guilty, it will not work. We have given you everything you needed. Food, shelter, and education. You just choose to see the negative. You gave me a folding chair on Thanksgiving. You are being dramatic." "I am being honest," I said. "And I think it is time the rest of the family was honest too. Why was Jonathan Harrington there?" My mother and father exchanged a look. It was a quick look, but I caught it. The kind of look parents give each other when they are deciding whether to lie. My mother spoke first. "Jonathan is a nice young man. His family is wealthy. We thought you might hit it off." "You thought I might hit it off with a stranger you invited to Thanksgiving without telling me?" "We were trying to help you," she said. "You are 22 years old, unmarried, working as a waitress. You are not getting any younger, Riley. We thought Jonathan could be a good match." His parents agreed. I felt the crack in the ice get wider. "You tried to set me up on a blind date, on Thanksgiving, without telling me, and then you sat me in a corner with a paper plate so I would not embarrass you in front of them." My mother did not deny it. She just looked at me with that cold, patient expression she uses when she thinks I am having a tantrum. "We were trying to help," she said again. "That was when I made my decision. Not a rash decision, not an angry one, a cold one. The kind of decision you make when you finally realize that the people who are supposed to love you have been using you as a joke." I looked at my parents. I looked at the house. I looked at the photos on the wall. "Okay," I said. "You want to help me? I'll take the help, but not your way, my way." I walked out the front door. I got in my car. I drove home, and I started writing. Not in my notebook this time, on my laptop. I opened a new document and I wrote a title, "The Thanksgiving My Family Left Me." I wrote everything, every detail, the text message, the folding chair, the paper plate, the Instagram video, the blind date, the pie that no one ate. I wrote about the time they forgot my birthday, the time they left me at the airport, the time my mother told me I was too sensitive, the time my father said my writing was a waste of time. I wrote for 8 hours straight. I did not eat, I did not drink, I just wrote. And when I was done, I had a story, a true story. A story that would make anyone who read it feel the hollow ache of being invisible. Then I posted it. I posted it on every social media platform I could find. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, even LinkedIn. I posted it on Reddit. I posted it on Medium. I posted it on a blog I had not updated in 3 years. I did not use any names. I called my mother Patricia, my father Richard, my sister Elle, my brother E. I called myself R, but anyone who knew us would recognize us. The details were too specific. The folding chair. The pie, the chef's table name card. Within an hour, it went viral. I do not mean a few hundred shares. I mean thousands, then tens of thousands. By midnight, my story had been read by 500,000 people. People were commenting, crying, sharing their own stories of being the forgotten child. News outlets started reaching out. A producer from a morning show sent me a direct message. I did not respond to anyone. I just watched. The next morning, my phone exploded. Texts from my mother, from my father, from Lauren, from Ethan, even from Chloe, who I had never given my number. My mother's text said, "Take that post down right now." My father said, "You are destroying this family." Lauren said, "You are so pathetic." Drama queen. Ethan said, "Dude, not cool." I did not reply. I posted a second update, a short one. It said, "They have not apologized. They have not asked how I feel. They have only asked me to take the post down. That tells you everything you need to know." That post went viral too. By Monday, the news had picked it up. A local station ran a segment called The Forgotten Daughter's Thanksgiving. They blurred my face, but they showed screenshots of the original post. My mother's friends saw it. My father's business partners saw it. Lauren's in-laws saw it. The Harrington family saw it. Jonathan Harrington, the blind date I never met, posted a comment on my original thread. He wrote, "I had no idea. They told me you were running late. I sat next to an empty chair. I'm so sorry this happened to you." That comment alone got 50,000 likes. My mother called me at 7 in the morning on Tuesday. She was crying. I had never heard my mother cry before. It sounded fake, like she was reading a script. "Riley, please, the neighbors are talking. Your father's firm is getting calls. Lauren's mother-in-law is furious. You have to stop." "Stop what?" I asked. "Telling the truth? This is not the truth. This is your version of the truth." "Mom," I said, "I have receipts." I hung up. And then I posted the receipts. The text message from my mother. The Instagram video from Lauren. The photos I had taken of the name cards, the folding chair, the paper plate still in the trash. I posted everything. And then I posted a video of myself, sitting on my couch with Fern, speaking directly to the camera. I said, "I am not doing this for revenge. I am doing this so that every other person who has ever been the invisible one in their family knows they are not alone. You are not too sensitive. You are not being dramatic. You deserve a seat at the table, not a folding chair, not a paper plate, a real seat." The video got 2 million views in 4 hours. That evening, my family showed up at my apartment, all of them. My parents, Lauren, Brad, Ethan, Chloe. They crowded into my tiny living room, looking at my thrift store furniture and my $6 sweater like it was a zoo exhibit. My mother was the first to speak. "We want to apologize." I sat in my armchair. I did not stand up. I did not offer them seats. "Okay," I said, "go ahead." My mother looked at my father. My father looked at Lauren. Lauren looked at her shoes. "We are sorry," my mother said, "that you felt left out." "That's not an apology," I said. "That's a 'I'm sorry you're crazy.'" Ethan stepped forward. "Riley, come on, we're family, we made a mistake. Can we just move past this?" "What mistake?" I asked. "Which one? There are so many, be specific." No one spoke. Lauren finally looked up. Her eyes were red. She had been crying. "Real crying, maybe. We should have included you. We should have set you a real place. It was wrong." "Why did you do it?" I asked. Silence. My father said, "Sometimes we don't know why we do things." That's not an answer. Chloe, who had been quiet until now, said, "Maybe you should think about what you did to make them feel like they couldn't include you." Everyone turned to look at her. Even my mother looked horrified. I smiled. It was not a happy smile. "Chloe, you have been dating my brother for 8 months. You have spoken to me exactly 4 times. Once to tell me my aura was muddy. Once to ask if you could watch your dog. Once to complain about the food at a restaurant I recommended. And once to tell me I was toxic. So with all due respect, you do not get to speak in my apartment." Chloe's mouth fell open. Ethan put his hand on her arm. "Maybe we should go." "No," I said. "You came here, now you are going to listen." I stood up. I walked to my laptop and opened a document. I projected it onto my TV screen, which is small and cracked in the corner. But it worked. "This is a list," I said. "Every time you made me feel like I did not belong. I have been keeping this list since I was 12 years old. I have 347 entries." My mother's face went pale. I read a few aloud. "Age 12. Lauren gets a new car for her 16th birthday. I get a used bike from a garage sale." Age 13. I asked to go to summer camp. Mom says no money. Lauren goes to Europe. Age 14, I get a C in math. Dad says, maybe you're just not that smart. Age 15, I ask to have a birthday party. Mom says, you don't have enough friends to invite. Age 16, I get my first job at a diner. Mom tells her friends I am finding my own path. Her friends think I am in rehab. I kept reading. The room got quieter and quieter. Lauren started crying harder. Ethan stared at the floor. My father rubbed his forehead. My mother opened her mouth and closed it like a fish. When I finished, I closed the laptop. You are not here because you are sorry, I said. You are here because I embarrassed you, because the world saw who you really are, and that scares you more than anything I could ever say. My mother whispered, what do you want, Riley? I thought about it. I thought about all the years of being the invisible daughter, all the folding chairs and paper plates, all the forgotten birthdays and canceled dinners, all the times I had smiled and said it's fine. I want you to leave, I said. I want you to go home and think about every single entry on that list. And I want you to come back, one at a time, not all together, and tell me one thing you remember about me. Not about what I did for you. Not about how I made you look. Something about me, something real. My mother blinked. That's it. That's the first step, I said. The rest we will figure out, if you want to figure it out. If you don't, then you know where to find me. But I am done chasing you. They left. One by one, they walked out of my little apartment. My mother hesitated at the door. She looked at my potted plant, Fern. She looked at my stack of library books. She looked at the pie dish I had brought back from their house, sitting clean and dry on the counter. You really made that pie from scratch? She asked. Every year, I said. She nodded. Then she left. I sat down on my couch. I picked up my phone. There were thousands of notifications. Messages from strangers who had read my story and cried. Messages from other forgotten daughters, other invisible sons. A publisher had reached out. A TV producer. A therapist who offered free sessions. I did not answer any of them. Not yet. I looked at Fern. I looked at the pie dish. I thought about my grandmother who had taught me to bake, who had written that recipe on an index card, who had always made sure I had a seat at her table. My grandmother died when I was 18. She was the only one who ever saw me. The only one who asked me about my writing, who read my stories, who told me I had a voice. Use it, she used to say. Even if it shakes. That night, I wrote one more post. I wrote it for her. To everyone who has ever felt invisible, I wrote, you are not too much, you are not too little, you are exactly enough. And if your family cannot see you, it is because they have chosen not to look. That is their loss, not yours. Go make your own table. Invite who you want. And never, ever save a folding chair for someone who refuses to see your worth. The post was shared over 1 million times. But that was not the end. That was only the beginning of my revenge. You see, over the next few weeks, I did not just tell my story. I built something from it, and that is where the real revenge happened. Not in anger, in power. Here is what happened next. 3 days after my family came to my apartment, my father lost a major client. The client had seen the viral posts. He was a family man, he said. He did not want to do business with someone who treated his own daughter like a servant. My father tried to explain, but the client's mind was made up. Within a week, 2 more clients followed. My father's firm put him on a performance review. He had never been on a performance review in 25 years. My mother's book club kicked her out. She had been the president for a decade. But the other women had read my story. They had seen the screenshots. They had daughters of their own. One of them, a woman named Carol who had always been kind to me, called and said, Patricia, I cannot look at you the same way. My mother stopped leaving the house. Lauren's mother-in-law, a woman named Margaret who had never liked me, suddenly became my biggest defender. She called me directly. She said, Riley, I am so sorry. I did not know. I always thought you were the difficult one because that is what Lauren told me. But I see now, I see everything. Margaret convinced Lauren's husband Brad to go to counseling. Brad started asking questions. Lauren's perfect marriage began to crack. Ethan's startup funding fell through. The lead investor saw my post. He had grown up in foster care, he said. He had been the invisible child. He could not put money into a company run by someone who had watched his sister eat off a paper plate and said nothing. Ethan tried to raise money elsewhere, but the story followed him. His girlfriend Chloe left him. She said he had too much family drama. I almost laughed when I heard that, but here is the part that matters. The part that people do not always understand about revenge. I did not do any of that. I did not call my father's clients. I did not email my mother's book club. I did not sabotage Ethan's investors. All I did was tell the truth. The truth did the rest. And that is the most powerful revenge there is, because it is clean. It is honest, and it cannot be taken back. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, my mother came back to my apartment. Alone, like I had asked, she brought a photo album, not the fancy ones from the living room, an old one with a cracked leather cover. She sat on my couch, she opened the album, and she showed me a picture of me at 4 years old, singing in the backyard, the Ladybug song. I had forgotten that picture existed. I remember, she said, you used to make up songs about everything. The rain, the mailman, a lost sock. You had a song for the toaster popping. I looked at the picture. My hair was a mess. I was wearing pajamas with ducks on them. And I was smiling, really smiling. Where was this picture? I asked. In my closet, she said. In a box. I could not look at it for a long time, because looking at it made me feel like a failure. Why? Because somewhere along the way, she said, I stopped seeing that girl. I started seeing a problem, a mouth to feed, a tuition bill, a daughter who was not as shiny as Lauren or as clever as Ethan. I started measuring you by what you could give me instead of who you were. She started to cry. Real crying this time, not the fake tears from the phone call. Her whole body shook. I am sorry, Riley, she said. I am sorry I made you invisible. I am sorry I let the others do it too. I am sorry I sat you in a folding chair. I am sorry about the paper plate. I am sorry about every single one of those 347 entries. I am sorry I needed a viral post to see my own daughter. I sat there. I did not hug her. I did not say it was okay, because it was not okay, not yet, maybe not ever. But I said, thank you for coming. Thank you for the picture. That is a start. She left the photo album on my coffee table. I looked through it after she was gone. There were more pictures of me than I remembered. Me learning to ride a bike, me holding a crayon drawing, me sleeping with a stuffed rabbit. My mother had taken these pictures. She had seen me once. A long time ago. My father came 3 days later. He did not bring a photo album. He brought a check, a big one, enough to pay for the rest of my degree and a year of rent. I handed it back to him. I do not want your money, I said. I want you to see me. He looked confused. I see you, Riley. You are my daughter. Then tell me something about me, not about my grades or my job, something you have noticed, something real. He thought for a long time. Then he said, you hum when you bake. You do not even know you are doing it. It is the same tune every time, an old song from your grandmother. I felt my throat tighten. He had noticed. After all these years, he had noticed something. That is a start, I said. He left the check on the table anyway. I cashed it. I am not stupid. But I told him, this does not fix anything. It just buys me time to decide if I want to fix things with you. He nodded. He looked smaller than I remembered. Lauren came next. She did not come alone. She brought Brad, and she brought a gift, a new pie dish. Ceramic like my grandmother's, but this one had my name painted on the bottom. Riley's pie, for the table. I am sorry, Lauren said. She looked terrible. Her eyes were puffy. Her hair was greasy. She had stopped posting on Instagram. I am sorry I made you the punchline. I am sorry I went along with it. I am sorry I was jealous. Jealous? I asked. Of me? You were free, she said. You lived in a tiny apartment. You worked at a diner. You had nothing. But you also had nothing to lose. I had everything to lose, the perfect house. The perfect husband, the perfect life. And it was all a lie. You were the only real one, Riley, and I hated you for it. I did not expect that. I did not know what to say. Brad spoke next. I am sorry too. I saw what they did to you. I laughed along. I am not proud of it. I have been going to therapy. I am learning to be better. I looked at both of them. I thought about all the years of feeling small, and I said, I am not ready to forgive you. But I am ready to stop carrying the weight of being angry. That is my gift to myself, not to you, Lauren cried. Brad held her hand. They left the pie dish on my counter. It sits there still. Ethan came last. He came alone. Chloe was gone. The startup was gone. He had moved back into our parents' house. He sat on my couch and he did not say anything for a long time. Finally, he said, I remember when you used to read me stories, before bed. You would make up voices for all the characters. The dragon had a deep voice. The princess had a silly one. You made me laugh. I remembered that. Ethan was 6. I was 4. We shared a room then, before he got his own. Why did you stop? I asked. Because my friends said it was babyish, he said. Because Dad said I needed to be tough. Because I wanted to be like Lauren, popular, shiny. And you were not shiny, Riley, you were just you. And I did not know how to love someone who was just themselves. He wiped his eyes. I am sorry. I am sorry I became someone who could watch you sit in a folding chair and say nothing. I reached over and took his hand. It was the first time I had touched any of them since Thanksgiving. I do not know if we can ever be what we were, I said, but maybe we can build something new, something honest, without folding chairs. He laughed. It was a sad laugh, but it was real. That was 3 years ago. A lot has changed. My book came out. It was called The Folding Chair. It stayed on the bestseller list for 6 months. I have a house now, a real one with a dining room. The table seats 12. I have real plates, real silverware. And every Thanksgiving I host dinner. My mother and father come. They sit next to each other. They are quieter now, less shiny, but they try. My mother asks me about my writing. My father hums along when I bake. Lauren and Brad come. They have a daughter now, a little girl named Daisy. She is 4 years old and she sings made-up songs in the backyard. I taught her the ladybug one. Lauren cries every time she hears it. Ethan comes. He started a new company, a smaller one. He does not chase investors anymore. He just builds things that matter. He brought Chloe back once, but I asked him not to bring her again. He understood. The Harringtons do not come. Jonathan sent me a friend request once. I declined, not out of anger, just because I do not need to be set up anymore. I found my own person. His name is Sam. He is a librarian. He reads my writing before anyone else. He sits next to me at dinner. He eats my pie. He tells me I am seen. And the folding chair, I keep it in the basement. I take it out once a year on the anniversary of that Thanksgiving. I sit in it for 1 minute. I remember the girl who was invisible. I thank her for being strong enough to survive, and then I fold it up and put it away, because she is not invisible anymore. None of us are, so that is my story. That is how I took revenge on my family. Not by destroying them, though the truth did some of that. Not by screaming, though I wanted to. Not by cutting them off forever, though I had every right. I took revenge by becoming someone they could never ignore again. I took revenge by telling the truth so loudly that the whole world turned to look. I took revenge by building a table of my own and deciding who gets a seat. And the best part, the most delicious, satisfying, beautiful part of my revenge, they know exactly what they lost, and they spend every single day trying to earn it back. That is not anger. That is not hate. That is justice. And it tastes sweeter than any apple pie. My grandmother used to say, "The best revenge is a life well lived." I used to think that was a nice saying for people who were too weak to fight back, but I was wrong. She was right. A life well lived, with or without them, is the only revenge that matters. Because it means you stopped waiting for them to see you. You saw yourself. And once you do that, no folding chair in the world can make you feel small again. I am Riley Morgan. I am 25 years old now. I am a writer. I am a daughter, a sister, and a friend. I am not invisible. I never was. They just forgot to look. And that is their loss, not mine.